Okay, just share this. Hey everyone, welcome to the True Man Show. I'm your host, Bradley Wescott, and tonight I've got an amazing man coming to speak to us all from all the way over the other side of the world to where I am right now in Australia, I believe. Apparently it's 8 a.m. there, which is incredible. That's 13 hours difference, 7 p.m. in the UK, where I'm based. But anyway, before we get going, I just want to say, thank you for all your support that people have been giving the show, for everyone who's watched, for everyone who's been sharing, for everyone who's been commenting, and for everyone who's been contributing towards the show financially. I everything that comes my way is so gratefully received, and I just want to, share my gratitude, and that's it really. Please continue to support us because it means a lot, and trying to get this message out so that more people get to see, the hearts of the men in this world, and that's the intention really is for the show is to give every man and any man the opportunity to come and speak the truth of their experience of manhood, what moves and inspires them and their purpose. And tonight we've got Talisman coming on to share his experience of manhood. And I'm just really excited because, I know I've sort of been following him for a little while. He probably doesn't know that, but I've been following him. And who he is in the world is really, really interesting. His artistic expression is amazing, and the work that he's doing with the open world theatre and other things I've heard about. I was speaking to his good friend yesterday, Reece Satchel, or some know him as Paisley, and he had a lot of good things. He's another very interesting guy, and he had a lot of lovely things to say about Atlas. So I'm going to bring Atlas on so he can tell us all about who he is and what he does and what he brings and his experience. Let's bring him on. He's coming on now. Hey.
Hey, brother.
How's it going, man?
Good. Yeah, it's nice early morning. I've got some ducks in the background.
Oh, cool.
Chilling on my front lawn, and lovely to be on your show and support the vision of giving men a voice. I think it's a beautiful project.
Thank you. Where are you? Where exactly are you at this?
New Zealand, in Auckland.
Oh, you're in New Zealand. I don't know why I thought in Australia.
I have been. I've lived in Australia for many years. A lot of my friends are there, so makes sense. Okay. Some people get it confused. Once you get beyond the middle belt of the planet, everyone thinks that New Zealand is just like a state of Australia. So yeah.
All right, got you. I understand. Yeah, I mean, I know it as a separate place, but yeah, you guys sound similar. It's a similar area. You both play rugby really well.
We're all part of the Commonwealth. All part of the Commonwealth. Just under the Queen's arm, just here nuzzled up against old Liz, saying "Thank you, Mammy." Yeah.
I didn't realize you were funny as well. Okay, cool. I'm looking forward to this. I was speaking to your friend Reece yesterday. He's an interesting guy.
Beautiful Paisley Heart. Yeah, I love that human. He's key part of open world really in the way that he lives. And I guess I'll tell you more about open world through the course of this. But yeah, I'm glad you've got such an awesome array of people. I saw you'd interviewed Yaniso and Israel. So yeah, I didn't want to do too much research and the technique and the format because I want to come in here fresh and just open to whatever. But yeah, respect for having such a beautiful lineup of men. Yeah, great guys.
Yeah, I mean, that's very much the kind of idea. It's just like, let's just rock up and see where the conversation kind of takes us so that it's properly sort of just from the heart, authentic, blah, blah, blah. But I mean, I get that's the kind of guy you are anyway. So from what you're doing. And I try not to research the people that I'm interviewing too much, but I have seen your posts, and I know that you've got something called the Open World Theatre. Paisley mentioned something called Vicarious, or something, a game that you designed.
Yeah, excited to talk about that for sure. Yeah,
which sounded really, really interesting. And I also saw that you're doing something with Yana and
Alpha.
in is it called I Am an Artist or something? Some kind of retreat in Australia?
Yeah, we're doing a retreat coming up in March, and it's a 5-day arts immersion for artists. Yeah, so it's going to be.
Yeah, why don't we start
there?
That sounds really interesting. Yeah, I know it all sounds amazing. But I know Yana a little bit. I've been speaking to her a bit recently, and my partner Abby's good friends with her, and part of Deep Inner Knowing.
Awesome. Yeah, let's jump in.
Discovered all these really cool people across the world doing amazing. Like it's like everyone in that circle is like an amazing artist, and I really got recently from going into, because I'm an artist as well in my own expression, but I really saw how art is the opportunity to transform the world globally, because it's a language that everyone speaks, you know.
Absolutely, yeah. Out of interest, what's your medium of choice, or what sort of do you express yourself through?
Writer, communicator, musician. You know, I've got my own way of delivering my creativity and my art, and
awesome. I think that's perfect. As you said, you're a communicator, and I think that's ultimately what art is, and why, as you mentioned, all of these people in our collective, and definitely Jan is a part of that. But I guess for me personally, the Australian crew is what I'm linked to on social media, or I grew up with, and that's art gang, which, as I said, definitely includes a few international people like Yana, is known because of our close links in all different kinds of ways. And I think that what makes all those people such amazing artists is that we do the work to be authentic, to go face to face with life, to have experiences. And when you then step into the artistic context, there seems to be this bravery mixed with vulnerability, mixed with the mess of actuality. And I think that's what makes the art beautiful, or powerful, potent, riveting, magnetizing, is the fact you can also witness the bravery of the spontaneity of the moment, not trying to guard and hold up. I think Wizard of Oz is a great example. We're not trying to hold up the facade. We are the wizard behind the curtain, who's a shriveled old little human just going, oh shit, look at my nipples, look at my pimples, just showing it all. And people, it's such a refreshing relief, and it's becoming more and more popular. Of course, the idea of vulnerability and authentic relating is out in the world now. But that's, I think, why those people are so potent to witness in their art forms. I think that we are all artists.
Yes.
So I love it when anyone claims their artistry. It's just a natural response to being in an aesthetic world filled with beauty and ridiculous, like sunsets and beetles and flowers, and there's just such a dance going on around us. So I think that human beings are meaning makers. We are weavers of story. We create our own mythology to better understand ourselves. So we're always creating art, and we're using it as a key way to pass on culture and understanding and position and safety. Like, oh, don't eat those berries. You come out in your like little berry costume. These are bad. We take it in more. If you just get someone saying, oh, hi Johnny, don't eat that one, you go, oh, up yours, I'm going to eat it anyway. But if you watch this really emotive movie or story or book or whatever, it is ingrained in our visual memory. And so art's definitely a key part of passing the culture on. And that is why I'm so keen to work with Alpha and Yana, because I think that we do need a new culture, which is a big statement, because I think culture and traditions are protected, rightly so, in many contexts, but particularly when you're in the world that we're in, and most people that are receiving this, probably all, if you're watching Facebook Live, you're probably, or Zoom, you're probably in the world that I want to update, because there are so many antiquated systems, so many systems geared to fail. Like the medical system wins when people are sick. What? Like, aren't you meant to make people well? So there's these inherent kind of contradictions in success. And so, Alpha, Yana and I are putting on this 5-day immersion.
Wow.
It's in Australia. And essentially what it's doing is it's asking any human who knows that they have a vision or a feeling of how else reality could be, but it's not landing. That frustration of just like, or you have this picture of of how you want to love your partner, and you roll over one night and you've been bored, you haven't been treating them very well, haven't done anything creative for ages, you know, it's just like, how, this is not me. Like, you don't know the real me. There's such beauty and potential here. And translate that to any context, whether it be work or what you want to do, the environment, or how you imagine you'd be adventurous in your youth and then you didn't end up doing it. We're taking those people, which I think a vast majority of us, and we're putting them in what I call a safe place to be dangerous. You come face to face with people who are stripping off their own stuff and being an example of liberation and vulnerability and greatness.
Yeah.
And I like to say, be humble enough to be great. Like, if you're going to spend 5 days with us, I'm going to give you everything, not because I'm arrogant, but because I respect that you're actually giving us your time and your money and your energy. So I'm going to bring myself up to the level of mastery I've managed to achieve thus far. And I'm going to give you my best out of humility for, and thanks for your energy and time. So you're going to be linking up with people, I think, who can do that very well. Like Alpha is a boss, amazing vocalist and creative director and performer on stages and arenas around the world. Yana is a lightning mind who brings that also to emotional healing, but also movement, and is bringing the emotional healing through in the way that she moves. And then me, which you've already seen, a master of characters. Am I right? So yeah, I'm going to be doing a lot of characters and comedy, and looking at how to shift the identity, because I think ultimately we're all playing a character in our daily lives. Like, it's just an identity. So yeah, that's what it is. I'll talk more. There's a truck that's pulling in just here.
Oh wow!
So I'm not sure if that's loud in your ears, but why don't you speak for a moment and then I'll continue after that.
Yeah, I mean, because I guess you're pointing at it, but it's like, it really does take courage to be an artist. You know, it's like, you cannot be. I mean, the nature of life is to create, and the nature of the human experience is creativity. We're all artists in our own unique flavor and way. But the thing I see that blocks us is actually having the courage to be who we are, and to unleash that potential and the magic that is the essence of each individual human being. And I guess that feeling that I get from what you're doing and what you're doing with this particular retreat is giving people a safe space to actually explore who they really are, so that they can then go out into the real world and go, I'm this person, I have magic, I have creativity, I can show up in the moment and just be like this amazing human being. And that is an amazing thing to be bringing to the world.
Thank you, brother. Absolutely, you've nailed it exactly. It's this what I call public displays of humanity, and that's a big part of open world as well. But it's essentially the idea of humanity showing itself back to itself, being that mirror. Because I think one of the things that people love about Alpha and Yaron and myself, just through surveying and getting feedback about people's excitement to come to I'm an Artist, is that we get weird and we hold point for that pioneering space beyond the known, the bizarre, the strange, the ugly, all these kind of things. But I don't think we're unique in that way. I just think that people are damn good actors at hiding all that stuff from each other. I think human beings are amazingly equally poetic as primal, you know, equally humane as barbaric. And so when we can start to normalize the full human experience, then people go, oh my God, I'm not a horrendous, you know, I'm not an anomaly, I'm not a beast. And then we can actually soften and trust, and then the true full love can start to be shared. So yeah, absolutely. I think maybe I could go through the basic idea of the retreat in sequence, which reflects a process of a rites of passage, because I think that in the modern day, I'm going to move back to my duck little spot because the truck stopped. In the modern day, we are starved of what I consider to be a rites of passage, which would be any initiation over a threshold to prove to oneself more than anyone of a right to hold a certain power. And so the way that we've structured it is that the first day, so this goes in sequence, and it'll give you an idea of the overall process. So detox is day one. And I think that's a real key part in the modern day, is unplugging from all of the intoxicants, all of the things which ultimately become a layer, an insulation between us and the lifefulness. And I won't go into huge detail of what the exact program entails, but it's, turning off your phone, unplugging from identity things, even changing your clothes, having a diet, flush, just coming back to a raw openness so you can actually sort of engage. And the second day is rewild, because it's so important, I think, just to allow oneself out to just move and bust and just go to that place of crazy. Like what a sanctuary art has been for madmen for so many years, because rather than having to be burned at the stake or committed to an asylum, it's like, no, this is just performance art, and I don't really mean it. I'm just here bleeding and crying and coming on the audience as an expression of my inner child, whatever it is. It's real. And that's the thing with open world theater. It's not a performance, it's experiential. It's tapping into the multiplicity of self, and it's all real. And not needing to perform, not needing to have the personal journey as the primary intention. You can see that sincerity when people do that. So yeah, the second day is rewild. Get out there, roll around. And what I find when I welcome people into the rewilded space, all of the things that we're trying to protect the world from, our savagery, our violence, our sexuality, our intelligence or stupidity, whatever it is, it's not as big a deal as we think it is. And so you'll be violent for like 30 seconds and you'll be exhausted, or you'll be sexy and then people go, oh, that was beautiful, I can dance with it, or like, I'm sexy like that too. Or you can be stupid and someone else will have the same question. You know, you can be ugly and someone has 10 times worse scars or this or that or whatever it is. And so once you've rewilded, you realize that you're not actually that wild. It's like this human-centric idea, like we are the masters of the world. We're just these little blips running around, bumping into each other, and we get that humility. It's like, all right, cool. My wild was actually fine. It can be held by the wilderness of nature. And then we observe. And I think observation is spiritual practice. To stop, breathe, to be with, to not deflect, to open sincerely, to take the context subjectively. What's my reality? That's important. Cool. Objectively, how's that viewed from outside? And that is bliss. Like that is this amazing space of true self-awareness and awareness of others and seeing oneself through others. And then after that, we come through to healing. Once we've seen it, it's like, okay, shit. All right. And then that's when we can actually start to align things, all of the lies. And I think that's a key part. And I guess coming to masculinity as well, it's a big statement to say all. I won't say all. A lot, I believe, of the anguish and the juxtaposition, the clashes, is just not facing the truth, not honoring our personal integrity, not owning up to when we've done something. And for two people on either side of the fence, not to be able to show all their cards. And I think the healing comes when we just go, like, I think what is beautiful. I think the world is a natural elixir. I think nature does want harmony. I think if we breathe and release our muscles and allow our chemicals and all that sort of stuff to come in, it will naturally balance. And doing stuff like rebirthing breath work and regressive therapy and things like that, you find that it will, like these things which we think can never be healed can happen in a second or say an hour, whatever, of counseling. When things just, oh my God, I've been holding this for 20 years and now in like one session, I'm liberated. And I think it's because in truth, we are free. In truth, we are wild. We are not tamed. And so when we can let go of the lie, it's the lie that is the sticking point. It's the twig and the spokes of the wheel. And so that's what the next day is about. It's about healing. And then we come into expression. And that's when we can bring all that stuff together into a space and learn how to jam, improvise, stalk the moment, to use this human instrument in its full potential and be anything. And then we nest at the end. We sort of integrate it and work out how we can take it from this container. Because it's amazing. You're going to be in this incubator with a bunch of other amazing, inspiring, sweaty, sparky humans. But then how do we translate that out into the day-to-day world, the real world, that space that there's so many things that need to change, which is what we're doing as artists, is we're creating the vision and showing the potential, and then linking our ideas, the dreams, the intangible stuff gently into the tangible, where the engineering and the politics and all that sort of stuff needs to then come and meet it.
Dude, it sounds amazing. I could sit and listen to you talk all day as well, by the way. The way you communicate is special. And I think I'm not alone. Actually, Abby's messaged on here on the live saying, I wish we could go. I think I'd love to pop over to Australia for 5 days for a retreat, you know.
Absolutely. Well, all is welcome, man. All is welcome. And it's like, if you can justify it, there should be some way, because it's not just about art. It's about using the potency of, as you say, communication to launch a business, to repair a relationship, to lead your staff as an executive, whatever it is. Like, convince yourself, tell yourself the lie you need to access this truth.
Dude, yes, I love it. And you say so that it's quite similar. Is it quite similar to what you're doing with the open world? Do they sort of they correlate?
They correlate, absolutely. I think a key part of open world theatre, though, is that it's out in the open. I like to unframe art, untame artists. I like to take the genius and potential that's in a creative scenario, but apply it to the real world. So this is still, I mean, we've got this ridiculously beautiful, like, tropical retreat space. So that's not always necessarily how we live every day. Well, for some of us, that is our day to day, but others who live in squalor,
so it's not a container. This is like a container in paradise where you get to explore in safety, whereas the open world is much more experiential. Go and be the artist, the person, the visionary that you are in everyday life. With
vicarious is Vicarious is a perfect example of that, and that's why I called it open world. Like, I'm not sure if you play video games, but an open world game is where there are no restrictions. You can go in any direction. There's not locked doors. You can interact with anyone, which is just life. Life is an open world game. And so with Vicarious, coming back to what you're talking about before and giving the example of open world theatre, we're using this platform that we're using right now of Zoom going into Facebook Live to actually puppeteer or control a real life human avatar as an in-game character. Wow. And so that's an example of open world where it's like, turn the camera the other way, have a bunch of people like yourself. You can go, cool, go over to that person, knock on that door, do whatever it is. And it's really just putting an overlay of art onto just life itself. And that's, I guess, the essence of open world theatre.
So I plug in, right, and then I can zoom into someone else's experience, and then I control them as a character and tell them what to do. And are there like certain rules to the game that you put in, or are there certain achievements, or how does it work?
Yes. So the only rules we've got so far is that no laws can be broken and no harm can come to the Vicarian. So the person being played is called a Vicarian. Okay. So no harm can come to the Vicarian or to the people that they directly interact with. And that just stops it going down a role of, like, go and rob that bank or go and rape that person or whatever it is, which is, obviously, we in our humanness, when we start to get possessive, and there is that aspect of us that wants to own a human, like another human being is one of the most precious things. So of course, we're going to want to go down the dark route. And there's probably already games like that out there anyway. But those two rules, I think, are generic enough, but, I think they're the universal kind of things that we generally abide by. Other than that, there's no particular rules other than we have these 3 areas of points.
Okay.
So the first point is wellness. So that takes into the mental and physical wellness of the Vicarian. And so if you start to make them sick or you give them injuries, that's like like bad points. If you're making them healthy, you get them to go to the gym, they're feeling really good about themselves, then your points go up. The other one is resources. So that's a mixture of the money that you've got and also access to a car or helicopter or whatever it is that you manage to get. So that points go up in that way. And the last one is network. That's like introducing them to new people that are relevant in the industry or their reputation going up. And so these are ways that we kind of guide towards expanding a life.
It's amazing.
Yeah, thank you. And then the last part are the archetypes. And this is definitely still a work in progress. But speaking of a full human life, because that's ultimately what I want, is to be alive. In the full capacity that I managed to do in my particular life. And that will always be relevant, regardless of the technologies that shift, the economies that shift, the social context. If you, I believe, stand as an example of someone who was curious and who bravely admitted their faults, but also with splendid, vigor, just went into their particular genius. And I really love this word genius, which means the spirit that was attendant upon your birth. Like that thing you were born to do, that effortless thing, when you kind of just show that, I think you're going to be a great role model for any people that come in the future. And there's the saying, which I love, is that we stand on the shoulders of giants.
Yeah.
Like all of the amazing developments that have happened in the past is the reason that we can be where we are today. So it's like, let's in our short, 100 years or less lifetime, just push it. Let's go and do it. And our particular historic context, like you can look back at leaders from the past. It doesn't matter if they were wielding swords or sticks or whatever it was. You go, well, I get the human essence in you. But you just did it. I can't even imagine how you survived in that moment. That's what I want to depict through what we're doing in open world theatre. And so in order to live this full life, I come back to archetypes, just because it's a simple way to understand the different aspects. It's not about drawing on some deity or some god or some a universal presence. It's just finding that aspect of myself. And so with Vicarious, we have these 9 archetypes that we play through, and there's achievements to unlock for each archetype. So for example, the human is about being in this visceral, mucky body. And so it's getting in contact with your own bodily fluids in some way. It's having a play fight with a stranger, things like that. With the leader idea, it's about going into society and changing it. So with the leader archetype, one of the achievements to unlock is making $100 purely with no resources other than yourself in a public space, and then gifting that $100 to someone else. So just kind of like going in, juicing the lemon, the invisible lemon of like, I'm just going to get money from nothing and then give it away again, which is, we're all so clingy. I think that when we can waste, when we can let go, we open the channels a lot. So these are just small examples. And to quickly go through the archetypes, there's the no one. So it's about stripping off your identity. There's the superhero. There's the human. There's the architect. There's the artist, the magician, the journeyman, which is like someone going through lots of rites of passages and things like that. There's the celebrant, and then finally there's the leader. And I'm still open to developing that, through dialogue. But at the moment, I feel those are a really comprehensive look at the different aspects of humanity. And so you as a Vicarian get played to unlock achievements in each of those parts of yourself. So it's just like this amazing life coaching thing where the player can circumnavigate your own self-sabotage and limitations. They don't have the fears or the thoughts about you, the considerations, oh, I'm Tom and I don't like blah. It's like, I think it's a good idea for you to do that. Do it, And so it's amazing. If you can really surrender to the game, then you're going to live this really expanded life and really get to know yourself and all the facets.
And what comes up is all the limitations at the mind and all the sort of the emotions that brings up, all of the kind of like, I can't do that because it's too shameful, or I can't do that because it's, I don't have that in me. I don't even know how to have that conversation. I don't know how to be this.
Exactly.
It's like, well, tough, because you're not in control. I'm doing this for you. Go and do it.
Exactly. It's this idea of crowdsourcing decision making. We know the power of ledging, for example, with Kickstarter or whatever, or we all put a little bit in and suddenly we have this thing. In science, they do it as well. Here's a problem online and you have thousands of minds coming and solving things to do with DNA coding that a scientist couldn't do in a lab. And so why can't that work for a life too?
Man, it's genius, dude. How did you come up with that? There we go. You're genius.
It's as I say, it's the genius. It's part of. I really like in Elizabeth Gilbert's book Big Magic. She talks about ideas almost being like their own entities that come through and they land and that sort of thing. And it's just been an idea that's it's been with me for so long. And I guess I feel a real duty to bring it about. I've been inspired definitely by other artists, by watching movies like The Game with Michael Douglas, or recently there's one called Nerve. There's been a bunch of ideas about, the Truman Show, and you've got the Truman Show, but it's this idea of the world within a world. All of these things just had me feel into the truth of the freedom that we possess. And in times when I've broken through and I've had catharsis, I've had moments of revelation for myself, I just, it's like the sheet comes down on the world and I see the arbitrary nature of the fences between our houses and the coldness between strangers. It's just like, it's not there. And there's this beautiful matrix, this unbroken connection blanket between us all. And that's what I want people to feel when they play open world, is suddenly those people who think they can't because they don't have money, or they can't because of their social status, or they can't because they don't know the key to the handshake to the members only club. It's like, it's bullshit. All we have is human beings in space.
Yeah.
The rest is made up meaning. And it just is a relief, and I think it obviously has huge political and social potential to take down these arbitrary walls which cause us conflict between religions, conflict between nations, and an unhealthy, unnecessary pooling of resources away from the general equality that could be there if we could just share.
Yeah, I love the sound of it, man. I've got to check it out. It's so interesting. Such an amazing idea. You're creating, life's the game anyway, but you're literally creating a whole new container for a game within a game.
That's what I want. That's what I want to leave behind. This idea of legacy. I don't think that it has to be self-aggrandizing. It's just like taking responsibility for the trail that we leave behind, and that is what I want to do. I would love, on my deathbed, if I just look around and I know that I've handed over a tool so that a little bit of what I feel is possible inside can be held by others. Hopefully live it as a representation. So even if my closest friends go out and go, you know what, if Atlas was still here, he would love this, using the death life cycle as a chance to birth new things. I would be so happy if I knew that I'd provided the world with a way to play life as a game. That's it. A game, a simple hand holding to then just let that hand go and watch the babies fly.
The vision I've got is you being the giant for the next generation.
We all are.
For them to stand on.
Absolutely, yeah.
Which is a really interesting. I've actually the business that the True Man Show is a part of is called Giant Feats. Yes, Giant Feats.
Yeah.
It's like, and that's very, very much the vision of that business as well in its own right.
Yeah.
I really love the analogy of a giant. We're all giants.
I love also the FEETs as well. It's like your giant feet, like just 2 feet that are really big, filling those shoes. And we, I guess, can aspire to being worthy ancestors. Like we often, I think of our ancestry, and for those of us who respect the people who have come before us, it's like, wow, they were great people, they were great icons. But imagine being that up in the clouds, or however you consider it, and looking down, just because I think there's a real selflessness. If I think of my grandchildren, for example, and I often talk to people about, even in a relationship with someone, imagine being that person, like your partner, your husband, your wife, your boyfriend, girlfriends, lovers, grandparent, and not having our personal need or desire. It's like, I just want you to live, honey. Like, I just want you to feel life. I want the sun in your skin. I want you to be loved. I want you to go out and that is a really lovely perspective. So I think if we looked at the entire, and I think that's why sometimes, not always, but sometimes we have elders who come to a place where they're not trying to get something from life anymore, and they can sit back and they have that grandparently feeling of just like, well, I hope life is good for you, So I think it's a good thing to aspire to be noble and worthy ancestors.
That's a beautiful thought, actually. Yeah, it's I think I was always scared of getting older, but the more the sort of older I get, the more I see the beauty in having lived a life and being able to be that person to, that just beautiful older man who sort of holds space for everything that is about to come forward. It's like I've met some people like that recently. I've gone, and just like the wisdom that they have to offer, and like the love that I get from those kind of people. It's like I really aspire to that now, actually, like you say. Yeah,
beautiful, man. And like, what for you, like, if you were to think of a version of yourself that you feel is true, that is like a signature self, what do you think is a quality of that version of yourself?
What, in the future?
Yeah, time's irrelevant. It could happen now. It could happen when you're 80. But yeah, what's damn true? Like I know for me, I've got this vision of myself walking down the street, kind of like a drunken monk, but like a benevolent, not creepy one. And I'm just there, belly out, and just like seeing people and talking to strangers. That's a key thing for me, is just like uninhibited communication and linking all. I see when I'm in a public space, I see all these potential connections. Yeah. And it's a travesty. It breaks my heart to think of all the people I haven't collaborated with. The internet's great now. You and I can connect and we can share this, but like, there's so many chances this is going to happen, or I didn't link with my partner. So all of those maybes are the things that I know the better part of myself links. And so this version of myself walks down the street and communicates randomly to strangers. So what's an equivalent for you? What's something that you just know is in your essence, is part of your genius, and you just maybe don't quite live?
Yeah, actually what's coming to me is the word community. I think that my deepest wound in life has been not belonging. And so I just want to be the person that, everywhere I go, people gather in like real connection and love and like creativity. And, exploring like what's possible, how can we, all these systems that you say are in place that contradict one another, how can we be the people, like everywhere I go, it's like communities of innovation, connection, collaboration, inspiration, and like, just like dancing in life. And that's definitely the future.
I love it, man. I love, like, obviously you couldn't see it, but just the amount of animation in your body, the emphaticness, like that is what wants to come out. And thank you for speaking to what's in you, what the aliveness in you. But that's like such a relief, just to witness people who are allowing that charge. And when people aren't aligned to their purpose, they're still got just as much passion. It's just quarantined off. And we imagine how much force has to be used against 1,600 horses. It's going to be like 16 or 1,700 horses against it. So thanks for showing your aliveness. And that's the key thing. I think if you do that, if you bring community, and you already are with the show, you're obviously taking a digital step towards that. You take the next brave step to that. And I think that the doing is an extension of the internal process. We are far too cerebral. Everything's a Google click away, and we've got our history to reflect on, and we've got our neurosis and fears of failing. So I think, for me at least, I go through all this internal stuff, and unless particularly as men, okay, because there's a really great book by a woman, Armstrong, I forget her first name, but it's called The Amazing Development of Men. And she talks about how men don't try. And it comes from this primal aspect of hunting where you can't mess up. Women will try, and she's talking about being in the fields and trying different berries and this and that, or trying with the children, and this more kind of antiquated but man, woman, caveman kind of way. But men will be there in front of the tiger, in front of the thing that they can't mess up with. And so we do it all inside, and then when we're ready, like we do one strike. We save energy, and we have to be all in, otherwise we could die. And that's a kind of a primal aspect. But the downside of that is that we go through it all internally, and unless it all lines up and we know it can be successful, we sometimes don't even let it leave our lips. And I think that's an important part of Open World and this, the creative retreat, I'm an Artist, is that the space is curated in such a way that it becomes an extension of the testing laboratory of your internal process. The art doesn't have to be finished before it leaves you. Your mind, in fact, extends through the other minds present, and the idea can continue to form after you've uttered it, and through the reflection of everyone else, then you have the realization, then it makes sense beyond us. And I think that's a really key thing we need to do, is to create safe spaces. That's why I gave myself the name Atlas, to aspire to be someone that holds the weight of others so they have a safe space to play. Like, let's support those who dare. If we ever see someone around us, and this I'm speaking directly to you, but also to all men, and I think that's what this platform is for, this show. As men, if you witness someone having a moment when they're attempting to come to their border and do something beautiful, do something brave, and you're witnessing all those other 1,600 horses going against their impetus, like, be that one extra horse that pushes forward. It says, yeah, brother or sister or child or whoever it is, bring that, make it space. They fumble, you catch it. And I think that's a part of the masculine, is to be able to hold back the weight of the world, or to hold the offer, to be the stillness. Because sometimes if we give a reaction straight away, or we try to add to it, it goes back into the head. But if they can utter and make a mistake, and we just hold, and that's the observation I was talking about, stage 3, observation. We just hold, we witness, and then they try again, and we hold. All right, baby, yeah, do this. All right, and then as men, we can be part of the birth of the new world, because of course women are the ones who bring it through physically, and traditionally have educated and been the nurses for our culture, so have a huge role to play in raising a civilization. But how can we participate as men? It's by holding space. It's by witnessing when someone is trying to step out and be penetrative, do something new, initiate, which is I'm not talking about man and woman, I'm talking about masculine and feminine. So the masculine aspects of that, going in and doing something. When you see someone displaying that masculine trait, hold space. And that allows their internal process to spill out into the collective space. And that's how we experience and participate in our own humanity. And then the inner becomes the outer, which it already is. And we don't have this huge discrepancy between how we know things could be on the inside and how they seem to be on the outside.
Beautiful. I love the way you describe that, because it's not actually, it's a different way of looking at it that I've ever thought. And that book that you describe about the men having to internalize everything and really be perfect, and you can see how that's actually at play in our world at the moment. And it's a pretty damaging way of existing now. Like in a lot
it has
of ways.
to be updated.
It has to be. It's like it was necessary at the time, and it was serving men. But now it's kind of like we're going through this shift, and people need to have the space to be able to make mistakes. I mean, creativity can't exist without mistakes. It just doesn't. Like, you have to be able to fumble, and I love the idea of being there to catch that. Like, when people are, that's such a nice way of looking at it, you know. Like, I want to be the person to catch someone else's fumble, to make it okay, and maybe even fumble it myself and have someone else catch that. You know, that's how we're going to expand truly as you know, sorry, go for it.
I just feel we are all orphans looking for that parenting, and it doesn't matter your age. You know, we often ascribe when we're young, whether it be to parents or to the bosses at our work or to God or whoever's above us, that overarching holding. But the truth is, or my human experience is, we have to raise humanity ourselves. We have to raise each other. So exactly as you say, that shared, like, you be the mum with the dad, now you catch me. No, I'm falling apart. You catch me. You know? And so we just share that role. And I think that's the way it has to be done.
Yeah, that's kind of like your mission, isn't it? I can see it. That's like what you embody. I love, like, the way you talk about things is unique, Atlas. It's amazing. I'm feeling incredibly inspired by everything that you're talking about and everything you're bringing, and I can see, like, the power in what you're in the open world theatre, this Vicarious, and the retreat you're doing. And wow, I hope at some point we get to actually sort of connect out in real life.
I hope so. Yeah.
Across the other side of the world.
Whereabouts are you based?
I'm in the south of England, in Brighton, just about 50 miles south of London. I don't know. Have you ever been to the UK?
I have, yeah. I did some open world theatre in the streets of London. Yeah, we do like did some blindfold walks. So we guide each other. One person has a blindfold, the other person doesn't touch them, but they were just walking through the streets of London near, I can't remember, it was for Oxford Circus or somewhere like that. And we also do a slow walk as well. And I'm just sharing these, encouraging other people to do it, which is just where you face, several hundred meters away from someone else and just walk towards each other as slow as possible, or even just sitting in the middle of a roundabout and meditating. We did all these things in the streets of London. And I think that's so important as well, is to normalize these very human, whether it be prayer or whether it be meditation, whether it be doing exercise, like at a bus stop, just getting down, doing some push-ups, dancing, talking, whatever it is, just showing that this communal space, can be used for all of these really nourishing human activities, rather than just like batten down the hatches till I get home,
breaking social norms. And I see that guy that you see yourself as, like, having conversations in the streets, because that's such a breaking of a social norm. I remember going to, actually, there's quite a few places in the world where that's quite normal. I remember being in Cuba and everyone just stops and has a little chat in the street. But you come to London, man, or Brighton, and everyone's just like head down. If someone looks at you, it's like, what the fuck are you looking at? Like, and that's like a normal interaction. It's so closed and cold and disconnected, and it's something very unhuman about that whole kind of paradigm, into like the way that people are interacting in that.
Yeah, I think it comes from, and this is interesting, talking about the primal, talking about the hunter. I definitely believe that some of the ways that we are antiquated, and we need to update it for the modern world, because we're not going around with spears anymore, and we're not needing to hunt for our meal and kill with one strike. But there's also some certain parts that are kind of inalienable from the human experience. And I think that through civilization, we are, I am in New Zealand and Australia, a product of British colonialism and that kind of passed down culture of, eyes down, buckle up and carry on, keep calm and carry on. And it's because it's not all dogmatic. To some of it, I think, is just facing the natural primal bestial nature of human beings. And it is true that we want possession, we want things. It is true that men often just want to, even from a primal nature, want to seed a lot of women and spread their genetics through places, and all the other things, whether it be being mischievous or whatever it is. And so we have protected ourselves from some inalienable aspects of humanity. And so, as well as just changing ourselves, updating ourselves, realizing we don't need to kill with one strike, I think it's also equally important to say that maybe some of these aspects can't just be cleared, can't just be sort of evolved out of. So how can we have spaces where we can be that bestial nature, we can be violent, we can do all these sort of things that we can't just evolve away, can't just explain away. And I think then we can trust each other. I don't think I have to trust you by thinking that you're light and perfect and have not a single bad thought in your head. I think I can trust you when I know you will show up in your dark and your light, when you allow your ugly out when it needs to be let out, and you will take responsibility to create a container where it can be spilled without claiming the right to impose it on everyone else around you. And when we see each other doing that, whether it be through violence or through sex or through mind expanding experiences, whatever it is, then we can trust the person, because it needs to be the full person. Otherwise there's an element of like, no, I'm just all good. It's like, no, we got a lot of stuff.
Yeah, like, I mean, you're pointing at shadow work really, which has been an essential part of my journey of uncovering and releasing the mask. And actually, you know, that I for a long time there were two Bradleys. You know, there was sort of like the one that I would show up as, and then the one that I completely shut away, but would come out after like several beers and like, you know, a gram of cocaine or whatever, who would just be absolute destruction. And he had a name, and his name was Des Troy, and he was he had a Facebook page, man, like
yeah, right.
yeah, and he was like just chaotic, like just sexually perverted, fuckhead.
Totally.
Like, oh God, like, but yeah, doing the shadow work, like he kind of integrated, and there was no need for him to be there anymore, because he could be me and he could express through me. And as soon as I started doing that, my life started to transform, because I wasn't actively going out to destroy people. People could, like you say, they could see me and they could trust me, and I didn't have to pretend anything. I could just be me. And that's kind of what you're pointing at. We can get to that point where we integrate all the darkness and the shadow and just be ourselves. We get a choice, man. Sometimes we're going to fuck up, and sometimes, you know, sometimes those other parts of us will come to the light, but it won't be such a surprise. It'll be like, okay, I know that's part of you anyway, and I accept that because you're a human being, and I see that in myself, and I can love you for who you are.
Exactly. And integration, as you say, is the key. It's not about clearing and getting rid of, but it's having it as a healthy channel that it can come through. And it's not loving in spite of, but it can be because of, whereby one thing which can be really unwelcome in one context, like, you know, I love going to mosh pits and everyone goes, whoa, just like really slamming up against each other's bodies. It's like, if someone matches your vibe, it's all joyous. Like if you're, I mean, perverse is a really shitty word to do with sexual things. Like, I just love all sexual elements, and it's all just like a celebration and pleasure and being in a subjective body. It's great. So if you find something that you really like sexually and someone else really likes it sexually, it's all a celebration. If you want to throw your body against things, and instead of mugging some stranger, you get into a mosh pit or some kind of fight club sort of thing, you're all just like slamming and punching and kicking and going, this is amazing. Like, it can all be joyous if it's matched in the right vibe, and if it's with willing participants, and if it's in the right context. It's all a celebration. It's all life.
Yes, I completely get what you're saying. Whereas Destroy would just come out like wherever he was. I'm just gonna act like this anyway.
Me, this is happening now. Yeah.
It's like, no, Bradley, this isn't the right place. It's like, I don't care.
Yeah. And at the same time, what an amazing role to play as well, because there is, for some reason, that has been called out of us, and we are serving. I really believe it's an act of service as well, to be the chaos, to be the villain, and that would be a catalyst for some other change. Not that it's always, you know, warranted, but at the same time, I'm sure there would be many moments of reflection or decision or action that was taken because at least we did something. Because I think some of the most violent actions are inaction. Just, you know, what is it? You know, it's evil happens because good people will do nothing or whatever. Those kind of ideas where I think at least you're not pushing against that, at least, and you can confront it, and you can go, cool, he has a name, it's Des Troy, like, I know this thing now. And I think that those things that are within our perception, to the degree that they're within our perception, the power over us diminishes.
Yeah.
And we can know about it, but not fully see it. So we can know I have this trait, but I'm still puppeted by it sometimes. I think it's just because some of it else needs to be brought into your awareness.
Yeah.
But do is always better than not doing, I believe.
For sure. And what just came to me was, you know, me, Bradley at that point when I was so split was I was a Bradley of inaction, because I was so in my head that I couldn't be the person that I was. And Des Troy was like how I channeled that inaction, was through this very channel. Rather now, the person that you're seeing showing up now has Des Troy moving through him, because he is in action out of his head. He is. I've actually, you know, I come into my heart, and I courageously step out into the world, knowing that, you know, you know, there may be opposition out there who would want to sort of put me down or belittle me, and I couldn't be with that in the past. Therefore, I needed Destroy to smash the fuck out of those people, you know.
Yeah.
That's integrated now. He moves through me. We're like mates, me and Des, and we're on this little mission.
Go Des. Go Des. He had your back.
I love this.
Yeah, it's like the friend who just pushes you into the pool. He knows you can swim. It's like,
yeah, exactly.
Do it. Yeah.
Yes, but action. That's the thing. Is like, that's the only way anything ever gets achieved is action. And being in a state of inaction just doesn't serve you. Like, people have so much magic, and just coming back to what we're saying around the artistry and what you're doing with that retreat, it is really just unlocking magic that is inside each and every human being, and giving them, you know, go run free, go be wild, go and, you know, go and sow your oats, go and be like whoever it is you want to be, but do it in the right container, like you said, like with the right vibration, however you want to express yourself freely.
Yeah, exactly. And it's the crash test laboratory to do all those sort of things.
It's the main.
I just feel, I love you talking about coming to the heart, and I was just wanting to do that because I'm very good at talking from my head. I can wax lyrical for ages, but I just wanted to, just receive that and feel into anything else that was important to say, just from my heart, from my body, rather than just from my mind.
I love that.
From the,
I think we've both got that communication airiness about us.
Yeah.
Come back to the body, ground, root down. You're out in nature as well, which is always helpful.
Yeah, I'm wearing my sarong. So actually, the cool thing about the sarong is you can sit on the grass and literally have your perineum on the earth itself, which is great. More men in skirts.
So what does Atlas Heart want to speak?
It feels like just like this. I feel like everyone, even including myself, is my little brother. And you just want to look at that person, look at myself, and just say, run. Just like you said, go and sow your oats, or get up. And you're just witnessing that person on the other side of the glass, and you can't reach, you can't grab them. It's all I can do is to just stand on the other side of the glass and wave my arms and call to you. And it's like soundproof glass. You can't even hear what I'm saying. So you have to read my lips. You have to witness it in my body. And my heart says that we are on the other sides of these glasses, this magic mirror, like literally this bit of glass in my hand is the silencing glass at the prison of our isolation and the falsity. And I think we are alone. And I think that's okay. And I think our need to belong doesn't need to be completed in connection with others, because I felt the feeling of my body go stiff like a coffin through different processes. And I know that's what it's like when I die.
Yeah.
And it is very lonely. But it's beautiful because you and your mind can go into curiosity of self, and it's that sovereign bliss of floating alone. And that is the truth. But there's a connection because we're all in these solitary chambers alone, waving to each other beyond the silent glass. And so my inner heart just goes, it's beautiful. Being alone is beautiful, but I'm alone too. and I'm going to dance in my cubicle as wildly and big and smear my blood on the glass. And hopefully at the end, I'll just realize it's a mirror, and knowing as we do in a mirror, if I do that, you're doing it because you're my reflection. And so, yeah, that's what my heart feels. In fewer words, it's just that, like, we are our little brother, and let us live like we are looking into the eyes of our siblings before we head off to war or whatever it is. And we just invest with as much as possible through whatever it is, whether you're doing open world or you're selling shoes or you're a masseuse, it doesn't matter. These things are arbitrary symbols. Like, let's exude life and look into those eyes. And when that little brother gets his first time on the bike, like, just stand to the side and cheer. And don't protect them from the grazed knees. Just hold space for life.
Oh, I love that. It's just a celebration.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what your point is. Celebration. Oh, I feel like in this talk, I've seen through the eyes of someone who really, really, truly connects and loves this experience. So I really, really want to thank you for that, because I'm sure that's like when I created the show, it is literally to see the hearts of men, and I really feel like you've given us a really, really journey into yours, and very, very beautiful, insightful, and heartfelt and loving. And I've absolutely loved every minute of this Atlas. It's been a joy, dude. And before we go, I just want to, because I'm sure everyone's going to want to know how they get in touch with you, where you hang out, how they find out more about what you're doing, what you're bringing, the retreat, the open world theatre, your games, everything you've got going on. How do people find you, dude?
Openworldtheatre.com, spelt the American way, so it's ER at the end. Openworldtheatre.com. Just on Facebook, I still put a lot of stuff out there just through Atlas Talisman. So yeah, friend request me. I accept most people. I do check every single person I welcome into my space. But, you know, if you're a person who's out there creating art, creating humanity, showing up, then I'll accept you. Instagram, same thing, Atlas Talisman. As far as the future goes, I'm actually bringing it all under the umbrella of Open World Realities. So that website's not up yet, but if you want an overarching view, which is not just the open world theatre, but includes the digital space, it includes the sexual stuff, it includes the collective artistry, which is a bit different from the open world theatre. It includes the gymnasium, so if you're into embodiment and fitness, expeditions, going on quests, which is a whole other big area. Openworldrealities.com is about to be launched in the next month. So yeah, hit me up.
Amazing. That's so cool, so exciting. I love the sound of this. Genius. Cool, man. I'm sure, I hope that everyone who's seen this is going to be mega inspired by you. And if you are, viewers, inspired by this man, please spread his message, share this live, and, you know, comment, get in touch with Atlas, and let's spread more of this love, and let's fall more deeply in love with the experience of life, as so brilliantly
brother,
by this beautiful man. And
can I just say as well that you're doing it, man. Like, you're doing it, that idea of bringing community together. Like, this is an example. So just a huge salute to you, beautiful human. Like, I can feel you've supported me in spilling out into the space. So you've done it, man. Like, you've held that masculine space, and I felt totally free to do so. So huge kudos to you. And yeah, let's as a call to action, use the hashtag I am an artist. If anyone watching this wants to display their artistry, or the way that they can celebrate life, or the way that they are daring to hold someone else as they explore, like, we'll look at it, because we're looking at hashtag I am an artist at the moment in the lead up to our 5-day retreat. So use it. I would love to see other people coming to life too.
Perfect. I love that. Hashtag I am an artist. Great, man. Well, this has been an incredible episode of The True Man Show. I've been your host, Bradley Wescott. We've been in the presence of the brilliant Atlas Talisman. And yeah, big love to everyone who's been watching this. And I'll see you for another episode tomorrow. But in the meantime, whatever you're doing, you know, keep doing it. Be love. Be an artist.
Yes.
Cool, man.
Thank you for playing.
Yeah.
Thank you for playing.
Woohoo.
Big love, brother. Bye.
Bye. it.